Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the innovation stage here at the Independent Hotel Show. My name's Hamish Kilburn. I'm the editor of Hotel Designs, which is the leading international hotel design website. This is my first panel discussion that I've hosted since our industry went through the largest culture shift we've ever seen since British Airways changed its menu to the M&S menu. These guys are looking at me blankly because they always turn left on the plane. Today, we're here to talk about the sensory experience in hospitality. And this session really was born through a few discussions that I had during lockdown virtually, where we looked at sensory design. We first explored sound's role in hotel design before finding our rhythm to explore smell, touch, and also sight in some other panel discussions that we hosted. What we realised through these discussions was that each hotel may be different, but all hospitality projects can benefit, regardless of budget, from looking at their designs from more of a 3D perspective. So, without further ado, I would like to welcome my panel. We have the wonderful Marie Solomon, co-founder of Bergman Interiors. Hi Marie, welcome.
Hello, I'm very happy to be here and thanks for everyone coming. I was looking everyone in the face to see the expressions and finally to be here and seeing everyone and their smile, that means a lot. So I'm Marie, I'm the founder and creative director of Bergman Design House and Njord by Bergman. We design mainly hotels, wellness and super yachts.
Can you tell us a bit more about the projects you're working on before we move forward?
It's really diverse. I think I actually like it. So basically Bergman design mainly hotels. It's lifestyle hotels. We see massive transformation in the market between the luxury and lifestyle. Most of the operators now are asking for more experiences, more lifestyle. How can we develop things? It's not just about big budget and that type of luxury. Luxury now is very different than before. So that is a huge part of our business. Second biggest part is wellness. Wellness comes in the form of spas or gyms or treatment, and how can we actually make our mental better, our health and our bodies, not just by losing weight. So the whole wellness identity is changing. Then super yachts happened very organically when most of our clients were basically locked on their yachts because they can. And we are now doing the first ever private member club that is floating on a super yacht. So that's very exciting, and there is lots of sound happening on it and lots of exciting light, and I cannot share, I cannot wait to share more with you.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thank
We
you.
also have Tom Middleton. So Tom, you shared the stage performing with the likes of Lady Gaga, Mark Ronson, Kanye West. You now, move into a more sort of holistic wellness space. Tell us where you are on your journey.
Thank you, Hamish. Real pleasure to be here and see lots of smiling faces. Goodness me. I've had a very interesting journey. I transitioned from music for entertainment quite randomly, trained as a designer, and accidentally fell into the world of touring performing as an artist and DJ. So I've performed to millions of people around 54 countries, I think, at the moment. And on that journey, I observed through staying in lots of very nice hotels that there were some fundamental problems with the guest experience in actually helping people sleep. So I retrained as a sleep science coach, and I've been interested in the last sort of decade and a half in transforming human suffering, looking at designing sensory experience within environments such as hospitality. It could even be transport, it could be spa, it could be workplace, it could even be education. So looking at all these moments where sound can be utilized congruently with other senses to help support the journeys we're on every day, reduce anxiety,
Nice.
help with peak performance and productivity, and help you become less anxious and overwhelmed and get a better night's sleep. So that's my job, and I'm very, very lucky because
I
I'm
am in. Less anxiety, that's brilliant.
And we have Mark Bruce, Head of Hospitality at EPR Architects. Mark, you've just completed the Nomad London. You're working on the Six Senses London to bring the Six Senses into the UK space. You're also working to bring raffles into the UK as well. A bit of a theme going on here. Is that fair?
That is fair, yes. First of all, thank you for having me. I say it's really nice, as Marie said, to see faces rather than just a blank screen. We've all been talking on Zoom calls for the last 2 years, so this is really nice.
You
I
can't
hope
mute
can all
us.
hear us. But yes, there is a theme. I've been kind of working in hotels for about 25 years now, and very, very lucky in the last 10 years it's all been about lifestyle hotels. And most of those brands that you mentioned are, kind of lifestyle brands, whether they're luxury lifestyle or luxury brands. And I say it's been a privilege working with them, understanding what makes each of those brands, different, why we all react differently to them, how we bring something like Six Senses into London, how we bring what people expect from a Raffles into London, and as you said earlier, every single project is different. I'm sharing a little bit about all those projects as we go through the conversation.
Thank you so much. So as you can see, we've created our panel to include an interior designer, an architect, and a sound specialist, all leaders in their field. So let's start then. So is it fair in saying that pre-2020, designers and architects would only really consider sound when it comes to creating acoustics in a space? Would you say that's fair, Mark?
To a level, yes. I think what has changed recently is I think we value all of the senses more. So I think you're quite right. Acoustics was a form of design, and sadly in a lot of hotels up to 2020 it was a plug-in, it was an add-on, sometimes it was an afterthought. But I think what we found ourselves in a really interesting place where we're moving from that lifestyle focus in terms of our experiences in hotels, and lifestyle was obviously about bringing great food and beverage experiences. It wasn't just about having a good stay, it was about making restaurants and bars as much a part of your experience as a hotel as possible. So sometimes you were spending more time and money on the ground floor than you actually were in the bedrooms. And I think acoustics were just then about making sure there was a good ambience and good music. I think now we're moving from that food and beverage led lifestyle kind of area into wellness, and a lot of our clients are now looking at the next generation of hotels and what we want from those hotels. And as all of our lives get busier and more frantic, and we're on screens all the time and being messaged all the times and looking after our families, whenever we find ourselves in a hotel, generally we have a little moment of luxury. And that's really where I think when we start looking at all the senses holistically, we can really start to understand the value of that. So it's not just about having a great soundtrack in a bar. Tom will speak a bit more about how can music influence that experience that you're having. How can we make people enjoy that experience even more by actually understanding the science and embedding that in design at the very first stage, and not just design but in the cost plan as well, because I think up to 2020 that was a key thing as well, which is clients not quite understanding the value of it. I think we're now beyond that point where clients are willing to invest in that.
Yeah, I think it's all about value, isn't it? And it's about selling to the client why sound is value within that design when you're designing that hotel. Tom, when you first entered into this arena of hospitality, what were your first sort of changes that you made, and what's your journey been up to this point? Because I'm aware what I don't want to do is overcomplicate it for our audience. I want sort of to be able to go away with actual solutions that people can walk away with to rethink their hospitality spaces. So how did you start injecting sound in hospitality, and how did you start persuading clients that this was the way to go?
That's a very good way of describing it, actually, because if you think about it, typically music on property is the afterthought, and in my world invariably there'd be a call, oh, we have to put sound on a property, oh quick, go and get a Spotify playlist, game over. You haven't considered it at the most important stage, which is when you're developing for your clientele, your end user. So I design with empathy. I'm always thinking human first. What are the problems of a guest? They arrive off a red-eye flight, they're destroyed. The last thing they want is a banging soundtrack. They have to fight their way through a bar and we were just talking about now, invariably in food and beverage environments, you're shouting to actually have a conversation. I mean, it's ridiculous. Sound on property needs to be thought through the lens of human experience. What are the needs, the fundamental needs? Yes, entertainment is important, but first and foremost, we're anxious, we're stressed, we're burnt out. We just want to get a good night's sleep. So let's start rethinking how we use sound in that context. So my journey was essentially looking at it as someone that's been traveling around the world, exhausted, absolutely, insomnia, circadian disruption, and then bringing in what I'm studying now, which is neuroscience and psychology of music and sound, to understand better how can we use this brilliant sense that we use every day to plug into, but within this new context and creating these congruent sensory experiences. So you're effectively looking at what happens in the morning. Well, you need to be energized. So make sure that the sound plus the lighting is correct. So as a sleep science coach, I've understood that you need a particular wavelength of light in the morning to make sure that cortisol is produced. And in the evening, similarly, you need the right frequency of light to support melatonin induction, which is your darkness, let's go to sleep hormone. So red and orange frequency in the nighttime paired with music that actually reduces your resting heart rate is a genius solution. I mean, the last thing you want to do is go to a hotel and be hyper-stimulated yet further. I mean, one thing that infuriates me is I get into a room and there's a channel playing something and it's like, whoa, whoa, Mr. Middleton, welcome to the hotel. Do you want to go and party downstairs until 2 in the morning?
Yes.
Off you go. Probably, yeah. But, you know, the problem is that I think we need to give the guest the option, the choice to opt into what do they really want at that point. So I see this transformation happening where the more you give the hotel ecosystem information about your needs, it can anticipate, oh, you've come from this time zone, so I want a room to adapt to my needs. I want to arrive there and it knows he's probably pretty tired. So let's help him adjust for the important business meeting or pitch he's got the next day. Let's make sure that the lights come down at the right time, the temperature is optimal for sleep, and that the soundscape is something that actually relaxes you and doesn't hyperstimulate you, unless you want to go into party mode, Hamish.
Well, it's true, isn't it? I think, you know, sound is very much being used in the hotels that I'm looking at now, subconsciously to sort of create that environment that the hotel star or the hotel brand wants to create. Marie, in the projects that you've worked on in recent years, how are you using sounds to break boundaries in design, and how has that changed the way in which you can design spaces?
I think Tom really hit the nail on the head by saying the word experience as well, but as well understanding how people live in the room. When it comes to hotel, for an example, I get asked, what makes you loyal to a specific brand? Or what about loyalty card for a hotel? Or do you care about points? No, I don't. That is actually the frank answer. What I care is how I felt in that hotel. People will meet you, they will forget how you look or how the room looked or how luxurious it was, but they will never forget ever how they felt in the hotel. Usually as well, the guest or the people actually forget what did they like, but they would say, they will never say, I like the light or the sound. They will say like, oh, that hotel was really calm. I felt zen. But actually, I went to the bar downstairs. That was awesome. The food was nice. The music was nice. Everyone speaks. Hear what they say. They say, I feel or I felt. And this is how we started taking it into consideration when we start designing wellness or hotels or apartment or service apartment. So as Tom and Mark said, if you are in a bar, you want to give them that experiences, that it's wild, it's fun, I'm drunk, I'm knackered, let's have a good night. But then they want as well, when they go to the room, that it's truly about them. It's the right lux of the light, it's the right sound, but important as well is the playlist when you're welcoming someone in the hotel. It cannot be another piano playlist, but cannot be banging on music. For an example, it's not an ad, but Soho House. You go to the Soho houses, I'm not the designer, but I love it. Why? Because you have an experiences in it. Even if you heard the same song they are playing, it doesn't remind you of the singer, it reminds you of Soho House. And which house of the houses? So that is a perfect example how they made even the playlist reminds you of them and not the singer. That is an excellent strategy. You go to the room, it has a specific smell. If you are in the farmhouse, you feel you are in the smart farmhouse. So that is smell. You go to the wellness, and then there is another point of view. How we did it in 2017, we were invited to pitch for a project. It was a listed building as a church, and we wanted to convert it in the first ever rowing studio for Matthew Tarrant. He's a British champion and Olympian. And how do we do indoor rowing for 50 minutes but imitate the rowing in the river? And he is a champion outdoor rower. So what we have done is combining light with sound to enhance performance. and that was the first time ever done in the UK and I believe worldwide. How you can imitate the Thames and how you row, and you see the arrows with the light, taking the light from white to blue to red depends on the intensity, and how the music works with your heartbeat. All of this works really effortlessly, and it shows on the screen. So you know how to stroke, when to stroke, how you can actually per minute count it. We're talking about rowing.
And you're talking about the engine room, aren't you?
In the engine room. So that was the first project. It won lots of awards, and then.
Can I just say about that project as well that I picked up on is that you didn't go into that project thinking, right, we're going to just layer this with sensory experience at all. Actually, you were presented a heritage building which you were limited as to what you could do, and actually lighting was a really good solution.
It was, and working with the athlete who will be a trainer one day. So the conversation. You need to know who is your client, who is the guest, who is the avatar, who is actually using your spa, what age, and what treatment. Light is important. You see even in the cryo and how the blue room or the red room will actually work on your nervous system. So light and sound is not a jolly anymore. It's actually fundamental to every space. It's not an afterthought or a budget if we have it. Actually from the very first beginning, you discuss it with the sound architect and the architect. How can we implement it from day one? Because that for the guest at the end and the owner of that hotel will make more money, so they will keep as well hiring us. So it works in the benefit of everyone, I believe.
Yeah. So the buzzword, as you mentioned earlier, was experience, and I think that's key. We want to create that experience, and we want to create a cohesive experience as we walk through the hotel. We look at the public areas, we look at the guest rooms. Areas that are typically forgotten are the corridors. Mark, how can we create that or keep that experience going through those areas as we sort of transition from buzzing nightlife to Zen?
I think it's a really nice example actually, because as you say, Hamish, corridors were never considered as a sensory experience. They were a means of getting from A to Z, really. And we've, especially for Six Senses projects, bringing something which is a resort wellness kind of experience into an urban location, we've had to start thinking about that, which is, if any of you have been lucky enough to go to a Six Senses resort, the gaps in between the experiences are just as important. So when you're walking from your room to the treatment room or for your room to the pool, those few meters are actually very kind of thoughtful experiences as well. They kind of help you relax, they help you build up the momentum if you're going to a fitness class. So what we've started looking at in our corridors and Six Senses in London is how can we use sound and light and smell to help people with their moods and get them ready for their experiences. So for example, first thing in the morning, the last thing anybody really wants to do is open their hotel bedroom and walk into a dark corridor. So it's working very cleverly with some very talented light engineers to mimic certain types of artificial light across obviously certain points of the year, mirroring that with gentle, calming music. And smell, which is the first time I have to admit I've used smell in a corridor. And we're not talking about plugins or pumping out, something where you immediately experience it, but just very subtle undertones, which you mentioned earlier, Marie, which just helps you with your heart rate, with your own kind of moods, and prepare yourself for whatever you're doing in the morning. I think what's quite interesting as well is that is what we're doing at Six Senses London is quite interesting, which is all about Zen and repairing yourself and a bit of biohack. But also we're aware that our guests are going to want to have a good time as well, and we've got different spaces and levels. We've got a fantastic club level, and we'll have some bedrooms which are more associated with that. So again, the lighting and the mood of those corridors will probably be a little bit more adventurous. But I think just going back to your first question, Hamish, which is this is really nice for us because we would never have had a client who was willing to think about that in a corridor. We've been, how many lights do we need? Can we see the fire escape signs? Is it easily maintained in terms of housekeeping? And what we're talking about isn't it hugely expensive? We are all putting LED lighting into the buildings now. We all have speaker systems going in. It's just thinking about it up front. And I think the big joy that we all have now is when we're coming up with the initial concepts of these hotels now, we have these people around the table rather than, as you said, Tom, you're about to open and you're thinking about how you can actually layer these things on. So it's going to be really exciting. I think Six Senses as a brand know what their guests are expecting. I don't think we as guests quite know what we're going to get in an urban resort, but hopefully with the care and consideration that we've given every one of our senses, people will be really pleasantly surprised.
Can't wait. Exciting. Tom, COVID-19, elephant in the room, we have to address it. You've followed this topic through many eras, but in regards to right now, are we at a point where we're really sort of breaking ground, or do you think there's a long way to go?
Well, I think there is a social responsibility, obviously health and safety first, but I think any hospitality brand right now needs to be considering the anxiety that guests will be experiencing, getting out there, flying again, traveling. There's a nervousness, if we understand that as human beings, we've had our nervous system absolutely decimated over the last year and a half. Anxiety is going through the roof, mental health problems are going through the roof. So I think wellness is a really key word right now, but mental well-being, emotional well-being. The experience should be supportive and kind. I think empathy is a really big word for me. I design with empathy. I think we all need to be more empathetic in the way that we approach design so that the whole journey isn't too hyper-stimulating. Now, the reason why I use that word is because we have been hyper-stimulated for nearly a year and a half, as in fear, uncertainty, overwhelm. What's going to happen? Do this, do that. So as long as we feel that the brands, we can trust them to take care of us, we're kind of handing over this sort of level of trust that we're going to go into this environment, it's going to be safe, and we're going to enjoy ourselves, and actually it's going to help us to feel more relaxed and less anxious. And that's kind of my responsibility now. I've taken this on. Work with all these sensory inputs and the whole the ecosystem of senses within designing, and make sure that the guest does feel supported. And I think that's that's our responsibility really within the industry.
Absolutely. And Marie, on the editorial desk at Hotel Designs, I've seen recently a load of suppliers and brands that are launching new products that very much play on the senses. Is this helping you sort of take your projects further?
Yes, 100%. So we're designing the other house, and it's a new, I would say, breaking ground hotel. And it's in South Kensington, the first one, and Covent Garden, the second one. And again, just recapping and touching base, the minute you come to the hotel, it's taking you into that experience.
Yeah.
It feels almost like welcome home rather than welcome to this hotel, because you're coming from a travel, you have done PCR tests and lots of applications, and it's really almost traveling is losing the fun experience, and it's becoming hectic. So the other house now as a hotel is almost like welcome home. Once you come in, it's very mellow in the lobby, very like almost intimate, and the corridor was taking you into a journey, giving that experience that we were talking about. Suppliers have been extremely wonderful with their product, and how can we make that corridor is an experience. So we took it as, if you live in the other house, it's not a hotel corridor, it's a London street. If you are coming to London, you want to wake up like a Londoner. You want to go to the bar and the bistro and walk into your street, and then you have the colored door that is taking you from one building to another. And we are taking that London experience that only exists in London into the corridor. That brings the smell that Mark touched base on, the music that is actually taking you from that journey or experience from the lobby or the bar, but making you ready as sleep hygiene to be in the bedroom. It's the one step before you get into that bedroom mentally that you're ready. So, of course, smell is part of it. The rug you're using, the color of the paint, the wall covering, every element of that corridor, those are the new products that we see every day, how it is sustainable, how you're feeling in that space, taking you into the room. And I am so proud of the hotel.
And it was amazing. We were able to work with you on the concept to completion video for the other house. And in our first episode, we spoke to you in your studio and went through all the different products, all the different textiles, and the way you piece them together and the way they work together as well in harmony. That's really important. What I really want to know is where do you see the sensory experience being used most from a product perspective? Is it in the bathroom, or is it on the walls, or is it in the where?
Personally, I find it now it's more engaging lobby, bars, bistro where you eat, but the most you can do in the spa and the gym that is now part of the wellness. The room has a part of it, but with rates. So let's say in the lobby it's 35, the bar goes to 65, and then the room it goes to 40% because less is more in the room. All you need to do is the transition between the light and the good sound to get ready. But then the wellness is all about how you come in absolutely knackered. It's not about the Swedish massage, absolutely not. It's about the whole experience, how you will feel that as if you've been speaking for the past 1 hour to someone. And that is by using the cryo or the infrared sauna and using the red light or the magenta light or the blue light. And then the sound, how is the music or the meditating room or the sensory room that we have in the other house. You have a full room designed only by almost like all your senses. You come in 30 minutes and you get out as if you had a psychology session for free. I will be living there 100%. I know. But the fact that you come in as a person and you leave out as another person, that will bring you to that hotel more. Not because of the point, it's because how you felt in that
Brands
hotel.
have to be more clever in regards to how they engage with their audience and offering something that's familiar and comfortable, and their idea of luxury is certainly the key moving forward. So we've got 5 minutes left, and I'm aware that there may be some questions. The question you've all been waiting for is, realistically, how far can we take this? Because there's a fine line, isn't there, between innovation and going into sort of gimmicky territory. So Tom, maybe you can start us off.
Well,
and we can
microphone's still on here. I was just saying to everyone this morning that a very interesting publication just been shared from Professor Charles Spence from the Cross-Modal Research Laboratory at Oxford, and a friend of mine, Steve Keller, known as the Audio Alchemist. Sonic seasoning. Now, this is phenomenal. There is this cross-modality that we're probably unaware of, but sometimes we taste with our eyes. We'll be looking at a dish. If it's presented in a beautiful way, artistically, we will suddenly make associations, and there'll be an expectation of what something will taste like. Wait for this. So experiments have been done where same coffee, okay, one soundscape creates the effect, the taste effect of bitter coffee. The other soundscape, it tastes sweet.
Wow.
Think about that.
It's mental.
And the pairings of sound with taste, gustatory and auditory, only just the beginning. Now you think about the fun you can have in an F&B environment where you start pairing soundscapes with different types of food experience, suited particularly to the cuisine or to the guest. You could fine tune and dial in, how much of this frequency do you want to make it a bit sweeter or a bit more bitter. So, I mean, this is real. It's happening right now.
I mean,
and it's
when we're designing hotels, it's one of the first things we look at so that the lighting can change throughout the day. Why can't sound? And you're right, it's got so much power.
And I think considering that this lady and this gentleman are sitting here talking about it, for me gives me so much hope that obviously I've come into it from a different angle. I was the guest traveling around, seeing that sleep wasn't being talked about and that sound could help people with sleep. Okay, so why aren't hotels addressing this? It's happening, and wellness is being addressed. Humans first. I'm so excited for the future and the potential to collaborate with such forward-thinking experts that have completely nailed. And thanks to Hamish for bringing attention to this. He's the first person that I've spoken to in the industry that's finally understood the power of this congruent sensory design aesthetic.
I think it's so interesting. We started off talking about sound, and I think it was you, Mark, that sort of mentioned that this is a real sort of era that we're seeing. And to be able to follow it in this depth is just wonderful for us, really.
It's exciting because I think we've all in this room, anyone that's involved in design and developing, operating hotels, is for a few years, most brands have been doing a similar thing. They've been catching up with each other. They've been thinking about how they can create this lifestyle effect. And now what is exciting is every brand can choose how far they take this. So some brands that we're working with at the moment are very interested in sleep. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they kind of develop their sensory kind of strategy. Other brands that we are dealing with want it to be immersive. So as you said, Marie, when you walk through that front door, why ever you've made that decision to walk into that hotel, whether it's to party, whether it's to relax, those brands will be able to use all this knowledge that we're now gaining to make sure that you have the best experience. But I think what's really exciting for the hotel industry is it's all out there. I think we've all just got to start understanding it more, which is why it's really great. I mean, I've spent a lot of this year talking to Tom, thinking about the projects that we could work on together. We've got a project coming up, which is a kind of resort in England, kind of a heritage estate, which is going to be beautifully transformed into a wellness kind of experience. And I can't imagine now doing that without some of these conversations that we're having, which is it's not just about the fact it looks great and is fantastic on Instagram. It's not just the fact that people want to be associated with the brand. It's the fact that people are going to feel better having stayed there, that they're going to have a valued experience. And that really, at the end of the day, is all that we're looking for as people in the hotel industry, which is how can we better connect with our guests? How can we provide an even better experience for them? So I think the next few years are going to be really exciting. Yeah. And one thing I can say is every single one of my clients, and I know it's the same for you, Marie, are very much looking at this now. They were talking about it before the pandemic. Yeah. What the pandemic has done is I think it has brought that focus, which is the next stage for everybody is those few hours that we get in a hotel. How can we come out feeling
and it's everyone working together as well. It's your clients, brands, suppliers, interior designers, specialists. With the industry we're in at the moment, the era we're in at the moment, collaboration is key, and everyone understands that. Whereas a few years ago, it was quite difficult to explain to a client why we would need a sound architect, why we would need a lighting designer. But everyone working together, we can get to a really exciting goal, I think, for sure. Marie, how do you think that we can move forward without moving into a gimmicky territory?
I think sometimes less is more. It's not about how much light you have in the space, it's what light is in the space. It's not about the banging music, it's what music are you serving, what is the smell. Let's stop the vanilla totally, or lavender in any hotel. I think as well, the second thing, hotels are for people. It's your guest. Treat them as it's your family. Think, what do they like to see in our hotel, and what is our hotel? Most of the hotel, when it comes to luxury, let's say it's all the same look. Now it's deviating. I think embracing change is very important. I personally thankful for COVID somehow, not being optimist but realist. I think COVID really accelerated of the change of that mindset, that stop using the word luxury when it comes to budget. That is expensive. It's not luxury. Luxury is how you feel, how much time you will actually spend in that hotel and enjoy it. That is luxury. Time is luxury, not antique mirrors and bronze, not at all. So I think that is a huge change we will see. There is a room for improvement. I think every now hotel operator is truly thinking how I give the experience, the journey, how do I make the guest happy, because there is competition, and it's really exciting.
I would go as far as to say that independent hotels have a real opportunity in this as well. I mean, big brands have to follow brand standards, whereas independent hotels, assuming they're sticking to their lane in regards to what they want their brand to mean, they can really shake things up. So, and also the industry and clients, they're more empathetic themselves. If you're taking a risk but that hasn't worked out, then at least they're empathetic there. I want to sort of broaden it out. Are there any questions from the audience for our panel? Yes, sir. Have we got a roaming mic? Thanks. You can just shout.
Hello. Look at that, Mike with a mask on. My question is about the future. I run a creative agency that specialises in sound for lots of different spaces. So it's a bit long-winded, but the first side of that is you mentioned Soho House, for example, and Soho House always comes up in lots of meetings about what to look for. But when I take my dad to Soho House, he thinks the lighting's terrible because it's too dark for him and this, that and the other.
Yeah, the gym is actually very bad. The gym in White City, if you train there, from wellness aspect, it's luxurious, but you cannot actually see how to hold or
Right.
yeah. So
We've got 10
But if
members of
you're-
Soho House in the audience.
Yeah.
No, we haven't.
oh my god.
But if you're a 19-year-old, you might really enjoy that. And I think one question that I always get from a lot of my clients is, look, we love the idea of having sound, we love the idea of changing the lighting, and I'm always talking about how important the experience is.
Mm.
But they're always saying to me, look, over there we've got a group of 60-year-olds having a birthday lunch,
Yeah.
but we've also got a bar full of 30-year-olds. We have such a dynamic range of customers, and especially my clients in international hotels or countryside hotels, they've got so many different kinds of people coming into their space. So the first question they ask me is, what the hell should we play? Because we've got so many different kinds of people. So I would love to know from you guys what you think and how you design around having such a dynamic
Yeah.
customer.
Yeah, for sure.
So-
Can I just start
yeah,
this
of
off
course.
by
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
I saw a quote the other day, which was, I can't remember who it was by, but it was design less, think more. And I think you mentioned it
Yeah.
as well, and it's definitely the approach to go down. The one thing I would say is that while brands out there, and we're talking like the W's of the world, they're trying to narrow down their audience, it is a great time to be inclusive to everyone, but you're not going to please everyone. And unfortunately, if you're going to differentiate yourself as a brand and offer certain areas, that isn't going to be for everyone. But I don't know, from a design aspect,
Yeah.
is that something that you're seeing as a challenge?
So let's take it now 3 steps back, and I think this is how hotels are changing, not just the independent one, but rather than even the big hotels such as Accor worldwide. They are really now studying every aspect of the hotel, which is brilliant for a big brand and not independent, and they are taking that risk and understanding. Let's start with the brand. Brand is not a logo, brand is not theme of color. Brand is what is your offering, who is your guest, who is your avatar. There will be hotels that you know that your guest is starting from 45 to 65. Other hotels is from 18 to 25, and then you have the boutique hotels from 25 to 48, 50. Understand the first, when you design the sound or the light, what is the brand of the hotel? Who will be your guest? What is the offering? That is already 60% of the equation right here when you think about it. And then what is the second thing? What is the experience? And how I take it, not from a place to another, because it's not like we are not robots. Like, we will not be in the bar, suddenly we are in the bistro. You are walking. So how you will actually as well make partitions, or how you will zone the spaces, creating a journey, because you will come to the lobby, and then there is the lounge, and then it will take you to that bar or the bistro and all day dining, but then there is the whole staircase that no one thinks usually about, taking you to the corridor down to your room, or that lift that is taking you to the spa/gym or to the pool upstairs. So once you start understanding the journey, this is when as well you will adapt your frequency of sound, where it will be a bit louder, though I don't believe in any loud music, because that is just as if someone is screaming in your face asking you to hear them. You don't hear them. Actually, it puts you off. So the frequency is very important. Let's say now to wellness. If you have a specific studio that for HIIT training, for an example, that is now needs to be high frequency because you're doing HIIT training. So you understand as well what are you offering in training. This is how it is with sound and light and music in general.
I wonder, from an architect's perspective, sorry to put you on the spot, Mark, but is there a solution here structurally to create these areas so that they are for everyone?
There is. It's a bit of a topic of mine, so I'll try not to bang on about it, but it's a really good question, actually, because part of the answer, as you said, Hamish, is there's some hotels that are just aimed for someone else. So if I want to go for a quiet evening meal, I'm not going to go to a Soho House kind of place. But a lot of my clients do want to have a wider group, and it's now because we don't all act our age. I'm not as young as I used to be, but I still like being in a lively environment. So there's a spatial way. So for the last few years, and Nomad London is one, we've been very lucky that although it's not a big hotel, because the operator, the Sedell Group, really understand how they use the spaces, we've been able to create different experiences across the day. And just before Christmas, we're about to open the last space, which is a bar lounge. So if you're there and after your meal, you do want the cocktails and the loud music, we have a fantastic venue for you to go. So there is that spatial thing, and I love a hotel that changes spatially throughout the day, and it doesn't have to be complicated. It can just be, you know, how you use the space. But what Tom will be able to talk about, so I'll hand this over to him, which is one of the reasons I've really enjoyed the conversations with Tom and people that are really allowing us designers to understand what's possible, is there are systems and there are sciences out there where you can be in a restaurant and a bar, and the music can be loud in certain areas, and as you go up to the bar and you want to speak to the bar person, the sound can be controlled or curated. So that is going to be interesting for some independent hoteliers that maybe don't have the real estate, but do want to have a bar or a restaurant that kind of appeals to a wider kind of demographic. So, you know, this is the journey I'm on at the moment, which is how can we use some of this technology to make everybody enjoy the space.
Yeah. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, to that point, I think if we understand, technology speaking, we have speakers in the space, and effectively we're normally bombarding people with the same soundtrack to that particular experience for that time of day. When we start to divide it up into micro zones with different experiences and use some very, very, very cutting edge technology which projects sound, focuses it in a particular direction. So effectively right now you've got things called sound lasers, just tip of the iceberg. We're not quite there yet, but you can literally be walking along, and I mean, we've done these experiments in corridors, which is lovely, and created the audio ghost. So you walk along and you hear something. I'm hearing voices, I'm hearing voices. It's discreet, it's hidden within the walls, so it becomes this beautiful, magical kind of experience where you can hear sound directed to only you at that point where you need to be sort of in that range of the beam. The other thing we've been working on is called a sound shower. So imagine we're sort of sitting around a table, kind of coffee environment. Above you, you have a projected white noise screen, so using, acoustically speaking, a sound mask. You know, sometimes you have white noise machines in rooms to kind of suppress that noise out there. Okay?
We need it.
We can cancel it out now. So noise cancelling headphones, noise cancelling coffee booths for having chats and meetings. This is where we're going with the technology, so effectively we won't have to shout anymore. And if we want to opt into having fun, there's that zone that has the energy and excitement, and in another area, using spatialization, psychoacoustics, and the current sort of technologies, we will be able to kind of have exactly the most appropriate level of sound and intensity of sound and emotionality of sound for a particular time of day.
So I think the short answer in all of that is we're working on it, which is wonderful because we're having the conversations now as the solutions are coming up. Thank you so much. Is there maybe one more question over there? And then we'll wrap it up.
Do this all day.
Yeah. Hi.
Thank you for, sorry, can you hear me actually? So I'm a lighting designer, so I could actually very much add in and appreciate the conversation where sound and lighting is appreciated. So one of the question would be to Tom in terms of the controls. Are you working with AV systems that then can incorporate, because I'm just looking for guest experience when you have a control plate next to the bed where you have the lighting, the blinds, and I personally don't have experience how then is there a button for the music, and then also looking at the technology as you were talking post-COVID, when it's more and more data being consumed and hotels to be designed depending on your experience, what time was your flight, are hotels looking to collect the data from the customers and analyze and preset the room to the expected mood of the client, or it's a direction for customers to arrive and choose the music, the lighting themselves?
Well, you've actually answered a lot of the questions that we get from clients, and we're developing systems at the moment that start as simply as these things, you know, the screens that we have in every room are a brilliant canvas to deliver light and sound. Now, if you remove the blue light frequencies from the screen, you've automatically got a really interesting way to utilize light therapy, chromotherapy if you want to call it that, using that interaction. And that's something that can be basically baked into any room on planet Earth right now. That's like, if you like, level 1. Level 2, you start integrating temperature and you're integrating the lighting systems in the room. And the good thing is that the systems start talking to each other. So we've got a company that we work with that's basically preempted everything you're talking about, and we want to make it really easy and accessible. If you opt in and you choose from this menu of experiences, for example, help me sleep better, great. So you've decided, I want to let the room help me to sleep better with a simple bit of data gathering where you've come from, what is the time zone shift, the number of hours you need to recalibrate. Per night in the hotel, you get shifted an hour to make sure that you're back in the new time zone as effectively as possible. So we're dealing with this sleep challenge that we all have. And we're also doing a study on first night effect, which if anyone is familiar with this, doesn't matter if it's the most luxurious hotel on planet Earth. Part of our brain is wired to be alert and vigilant in a new set of surroundings. So we don't fully go to sleep. So if brands in hospitality understand that these big problems, we're humans, we can't switch off sometimes even if we want to. And by knowing that this guest has come in, okay, we can help support that particular experience. So yeah, understanding frequency of light, lux of light, making sure that it's if you like a sensescape that takes you through this journey into deep, restful, supportive sleep, that you get the REM sleep you need. And I think in hospitality there needs to be a conversation around sleep science, sleep hygiene, because hotels are selling sleep, but if they can't get that right, they've instantly failed. So I think the first conversation is get a sleep scientist around the table when we're designing together, and we talk about what are human problems with sleep. And if guests are willing to opt into this, we've got in our hands a remote control. It's easy. It's part of the ecosystem. Boom, yes please, I would like to be helped to sleep. I need some energy now. So I've already designed systems where you can have in-room wellness using the LCD screen with the LED lighting strip around it that supports these kind of rituals, wind-down rituals, yoga rituals in the morning for energy, a HIIT exercise, whatever it is. You can already deliver this kind of content in hotel rooms now. And then once you start getting temperature, air quality, making sure the acoustics are right, then you're winning. Does that help to answer it? We're there.
Well, that is really all we've got time for. Can I just thank Marie, Tom and Mark for joining us on the panel. Thank you so much. And thank you to the Independent Hotel Show for battling with so much adversity to put on this show. Thank you so much.